Hi, it's David Ash in Delray Beach, Florida, wishing everyone a wonderful, happy New Year.
I'm spending in Santa Monica, but we're spending Rosh Hashanah with you at CBST. Have a wonderful New Year.
Hi, this is Mark Epstein, and I'm wishing everybody a Shana Tova. I am sending you all my best wishes for a lot of peace and love in 5782.
Shana Tova, everyone from Gomez.
Shana Tova, CBST. Happy New Year.
Hi, this is Jeannie Heller, a member of CBST, wishing everybody a very happy New Year.
Lori and Max Krotman from Port Washington, New York.
Wish you a very healthy and happy New Year.
Hi, this is Sarah Mays. I want to wish all of my friends at CBST a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year.
This is Robert Charlatan, wishing you and your loved ones a year of health, happiness, peace, and prosperity.
Rick Landman and Lisa Landman want to wish you all a Lashona Tova.
Happy holiday.
Okay. Good Yantov.
Lashana
Shana Tova from the Not So Churchy family.
Shana Tova Umatuka from Marx's Kite, Chelsea Village, New York. Thank you for worshiping with us at Congregation Beit Simchat Torah. Gemar Chatima Torah.
We wish you all a sweet, happy, and most of all, a healthy New Year.
Shana Tova Umatuka.
From Kenneth
and Ira.
Hi, I'm Sherry Clemens, and I want to wish everyone a very sweet and happy New Year. Lashana Tova, everybody.
Lashana Tova, CBST. We love you.
Part of the beginning of the quote-unquote gay boom. CBST was an amazing welcoming community where at first we brought Malka as a baby to Friday night services because that was our world. We were thrilled when they started bringing in the children's education programming.
For both of our children, going to shul has been very much a social event. That's where they go to see their friends. So many of their friends had two moms and two dads. To have our kids know that they're not the only ones was really essential and really such a positive environment for them to grow up in.
CBST is so important to us, and it is such at the core of who we are. And we will always and forever be at CBST for the High Holy Days because that's our home.
There's no place on earth like high holidays at CBST. It's the best place to go. I feel like the word is out. I feel like everybody in New York knows this. It is set up so well and so smart in terms of, the children's programming and the teen programming, and of course, so much community involvement, and it's free, it's for everyone. And, it's such a welcoming place. For me, as a Black Jew, lesbian with children, married, I can be my authentic self and be accepted.
Every person, regardless of how they experience their own high holy days or however they experience being Jewish in the world, they are able to daven at CBST. That is priceless.
Hi, this is Harriet Beckman and Ruth Blave, wishing all of our CBST friends a sweet and happy New Year.
Lashana Tova. I want to wish all of my friends at CBST a happy and healthy New Year. Next year we should all be together.
Shana Tova from Bonnie and Bailey. Happy New Year, everyone.
This is Saul Zalkin. My husband Cedric Walker and I want to send to all of you best wishes for a year filled with good health and the ability to recognize all the blessings that we have been given by Hashem.
Shana Tova to everyone at CBST from Fort Lauderdale.
Shana Tova from Greg
and Andy
from Provincetown.
I first got involved with CBST, I just showed up at High Holy Day services. The first few years that I went with the intention of finding a nice Jewish boy and maybe also enjoying the services. And then it kind of reversed its order as the years went by. This is still a unique experience, gathering a congregation just made up of the LGBTQ plus community and our allies. What I love about CBST is the community, and I love Rabbi Kleinbaum. She's a superstar. She knows just what to say and when to say it and how to say it, and we need her more than ever right now.
Deborah and I want to wish all of you in our CBST community and friends the warmest wishes for a happy and healthy New Year. We appreciate all of the support we get from the community. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova, CBST. We miss you very much. But Tov Lahodot, that we join online from Israel.
Brachot from Shari and Debbie for health and strength in Tashpab 5782.
Shana Tova.
Hello, it's Noemi on behalf of the Maslia Cohen households, wishing the entire CBST community a happy, sweet, and healthy new year, and may it bring us together again.
Judaism essentially saved my life. The essence for me of Jewish thought is to question and to not accept that which is causing suffering, but to question it for my sexuality, for my gender, for my livelihood, getting me through coronavirus. Questioning this keeps me alive. The High Holy Days have never been so important to me as they are now. We're faced, well, how can I say this? You know it, terrible times. And we wonder, when will this terrible time be over? Is there ever an end? And the message of Rosh Hashanah is, yes, of course, dear. Everything comes to an end. Everything has a new beginning. And we celebrate that with our family. And on the High Holy Days, we know that Jews all over the world are doing exactly what we're doing. We have a family, and especially our queer family at CBST. We're all here. We're not isolated. We're not alone. And finally we go, will I ever be lighthearted again? That's a hard one. Once again, the High Holy Days have an answer. Yom Kippur says, unburden yourself, unburden your heart. Take this off of you. And yes, my dear, you will be lighthearted again, I promise. You know, when I think CBST, I think family. And I think Rabbi Kleinbaum. She embodies all the grace and wisdom I've come to hope for in synagogue community. I feel seen, I feel heard, and I know she's seeing and hearing all my queer family. Nowhere else do I get anything like that. CBST is a home for me that way.
Hi, I'm Lynn.
Hi, I'm Sally. We wish that the blessings of peace, health, and kindness surround you throughout the new year.
Happy New Year from Lori Magid, and the best news of the past year for me, darling Louisa Miriam.
Hi everyone, Max Leader here, wishing my entire CBST family a good, meaningful, and sweet new year ahead. L'Shana Tova.
Hello to my beautiful CBST family and community. Anna and Barbara Streisand and I wish all of you a sweet Shana Tova and blessings for health, happiness, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. It's been a tough year, but we have each other and we have a beautiful year ahead.
Shana Tova from the Jersey Shore in Ventnor, New Jersey.
I'm Simon Dratfield.
And I'm Sherry Felt Dratfield. And this is our new puppy, Chloe. If there are two things our new puppy has taught us. One, that there's an entire world to be discovered if you discover it through brand new eyes.
And the second thing is that new puppies have very sharp teeth.
We wish you a very sweet,
Healthy.
and joyous New Year.
Hello, all you fabulous CBST people. This is Elaine Padilla and my awesome daughter, Lisa Padilla, wishing you Lashana Tova from the beautiful Berkshires in Western Massachusetts.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Hi, I'm Sarah. And I'm Lynn. And we're wishing you a happy and healthy new year full of justice and joy.
Shana Tova from Lisa, Janet, and Shmuley.
Lashana Tova. Happy New Year to all from Michael Learman and Jay Fisher. And regards from Rita Fisher on the other side, but she's still with us in spirit. Lashana Tova.
Lashana Tova from Chicago to our CBST families.
Love the Cutchins and the Adlers. Happy and healthy New Year.
L'chaim.
Hello, CBST. This is Ora Ezraki wishing everyone a happy, healthy, and sweet New Year. Shana Tova.
Lashana Tova from David Seligman.
Lashana Tova. Karen Nothman here. Sure miss greeting all of you at the entrance of the Javits or Masonic. Even missed the scramble for seats and the stacking of the prayer books and picking up the programs after. Wishing all of you a very happy, healthy, and sweet 5782.
Lashana Tova from Rick Redder and Jack Neiman and Jacqueline Jaunet from Miami Beach, Florida.
Shana Tova from Randy
and Mickey. While we may be physically distant, may we be spiritually connected.
May the sound of the shofar ring in a sweet new year for our CBST family.
Shana Tova.
L'shoina toive. Good yontiv, good yor.
Good kibbutz yor.
L'shana Tova from the Cantorial Vine family to all of you. We wish everyone a happy, healthy, peaceful, and sweet new year.
Hi,
I'm Barbara.
And I'm Simon.
And we want to wish you a happy
82.
That's it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, CBST family. Wishing you all a year of sweet blessings. May it be filled with love, abundant joy, and peace. Remember that the sweetest things in life aren't things. There are people who enrich our lives like all of you have done for me. L'Shana Tova.
CBST.
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 CBST. CBST is an open door.
CBST has an open door policy since it began in 1973. We were going to make sure from the very beginning that there would never be a ticket charged for services, that we who experience so many barriers coming into the Jewish community wanted to make sure that our community would have no barriers of financial means that would determine whether or not you could join us. So that policy of an open door has continued, and it continues to be a meaningful welcome to everyone. I pray that this is a season of great reflection for you personally, a season of deep transformation, and a season of hope and of love and of light. May this new year, with all of its uncertainty, bring great and new love, light, and hope into your lives.
Shana Tova Umetuka, from our family to yours.
Wishing you a sweet and healthy High Holy Days.
As we said last year, next year with the Javid sunset.
Shana Tova, from Catherine and Sheila.
It's Regina and Leah.
We wish you a very happy New Year, Shana Tova Umetuka.
And we look forward to everybody being together again very soon.
Hi, it's Mark Fisher, wishing everybody a happy, a healthy, and a sweet New Year. L'Shana Tova.
L'Shana Tova, from Erica and Liz. Best wishes for a sweet, happy, and healthy New Year.
Shana Tova to all my family and friends at CBST. May the new year bring us good health, happiness, and joy, and definitely peace, and no more pandemic. Love you all.
Shana Tova, a gut gebencht your, a sweet and a healthy New Year to all.
תיקוסייבו אגות יור אגות יור
Shana Tova. Welcome to Congregation Beit Simchat Torah, CBST's Yom Tov services for Rosh Hashanah. Tonight we begin these 10 days of repentance, the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, in earnest. If there's the intensity of days of the year in the Jewish calendar, these are the days in which intensity becomes the water we drink, the air we breathe, and we, starting tonight, are going on a journey of 10 days. We're given this gift of this journey to go on no matter our external circumstances. And wow, do we wish we had some different external circumstances than we have right now. We had so hoped that we could be in person. And only a few months ago, we were making those plans. And then we had imagined we could have a smaller number in the sanctuary here at 30th Street. But as we started reflecting and understanding that that too was going to be very difficult to safely achieve, we had to do what is necessary, which is to, once again this year, ask our community to overcome the obstacles of geography, to overcome the obstacles of technology, but to be open yet again to the spirituality of these days of awe. Our people have traveled through very, very, very difficult and dark times before. And indeed, we will again for sure. We must find it in ourselves to experience resilience, to overcome the obstacles, not to deny that they exist, of course they do. Not to deny our sadness or grief or anxiety or even anger. Of course they do. We have to carry it all together. And we, all of us, you out there, we have registered for CBST services tonight, over 2,800 computers around the world, representing 40 different states in the United States and 18 different countries, including the United States, around the world. We are coming together from all over. And I invite you in the chat or the comment section to wish each other a Shana Tova, a good Keben Shior, a sweet new year, and let us know where you are coming from. I want to introduce Rabbi Yael Rapport, who is serving as our online rabbi tonight. So she is online with all of you, answering questions, talking to you, making sure everybody who's joining in from online has access to a rabbi tonight in real time and in real space. And I want to thank those who are joining me in the sanctuary leading services tonight. Joyce Rosenzweig, our music director, Sam Rosen, our Cantorial intern, and as a sign of our ever opening up a little bit, we're so grateful that Adria Benjamin will be joining us on viola and Barbara Freeedman on percussion. And all of us are masked, tested, and fully vaxxed. Those of us who are not wearing a mask tonight to lead services have been tested recently enough that we know we're here in negative so that we can be with all of you without a mask. But every single person, including our fabulous tech crew from Awaken Films, all of our CBST staff who are here providing the infrastructure to make this happen, and others who are here in order to make the services happen, every single person who comes into the building at CBST must be fully vaxxed and wear masks at all times. This is our obligation. And let us start this season of awe by stating what I hope is obvious, and I know in our community is accepted, that there is a Jewish mandate not only to say that it's okay to be vaccinated in this crazy world in which we live, but there is a Jewish obligation by Jewish law and consensus to get that vaccine. It is a positive obligation. It's not just that there's no barrier to it by the Jewish religion. So, we are in unprecedented times. I don't know how many times I've said that in the last some years, but these are indeed another set of unprecedented times.
We don't know what is coming exactly, but we come together to pray, to express gratitude for the blessings in our lives, to think back from last year to this year, to things that have improved our lives, things that have made things better. We think back from last year to this year with sadness, thinking about those who are no longer with us, who were with us, who were alive last Rosh Hashanah and who are no longer alive. We feel grief for the hundreds of thousands of people who have died in this country from this virus and the millions worldwide. But we're also grateful there is now a vaccine. There is an administration in our country who is trying very hard to move us forward. There have been deep acts of kindness and compassion and love and generosity this year which have moved me over and over again by so many members of this community and in the world at large. So we have to do what is the deep, spiritual, mature thing to do, which is to carry all of these things. The grief, the anger, the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety, the joy, the gratitude, the love, the light. We have to carry it all together. Into this 10-day period in which we think deeply about our roles in the world in these last year, and we think very deeply about how we want to transform ourselves for the coming year. We examine our souls, understanding there's tremendous evil in the world. And yes, we might not be as bad as somebody else, but that doesn't exempt us from the deep spiritual work of creating space by becoming the person that I believe the Holy One who has created us wants us to be. We are in partnership, the one who has created us all. Hayom Harat Olam. Today is the birthday of the world we celebrate on Rosh Hashanah. It is the beginning of the beginnings. And so on Rosh Hashanah, we begin again and again and again, and some of us are exhausted. But I pray that as you observe this Yom Tov with us, as you find a way to break through the gunk and the cement that encases your heart or your soul tonight, and you break it open ever so little, you'll be on a journey of deep holiness. Wherever you are, in whatever setting you are tonight, it is a mikdash ma'at. It is a small sanctuary. We're so moved to be with all of you. Yes, we're sad not to have you surround us. And yes, we miss it. And yes, last year when we finished the Ne'ilah service, Joyce looked at Sam and me. We were alone in the sanctuary with our fabulous tech crew and some CBST staff, and Joyce said, wow, we learned a lot that I hope we never have to use again. And here we are, using it again. You know, we say in Yiddish, a human being may plan, but God laughs. And it's our job to understand we're not in charge. And Rosh Hashanah celebrates that there is a power in the universe bigger than all of us. And we pray for help to be able to allow that power into our lives, to allow us to be agents of that power in the world for the good. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Thank you for doing the personal work you need to do to be able to be fully present. While this isn't ideal, not much in life is ideal, and maybe there's something to learn about that. While this isn't what we had imagined it to be, maybe we can find deep truths along this journey together. So during this services, we'll have one member of the CBST Board of Directors at various services to represent the board and to represent the membership here in the sanctuary. We have online a PDF of an outline of the services, which we encourage you to download or to access so you can see the outline if you want. No obligation. You'll experience the service just as well without it, but if you want it, the PDF is there. And we're using the Machzor, the prayer book for Rosh Hashanah of Lev Shalem from the conservative movement, which I know many of you have purchased leading up to today, so you'll have it at home. If not, there's access to purchase an electronic version of the Machzor for you to be using at home. This Machzor will be good for Rosh Hashanah, for both days of Rosh Hashanah, and for Yom Kippur as well. And I encourage you throughout tonight's service, read the various commentary. Browse through this beautiful, beautiful Machzor, which has on both sides of each page commentary, midrashim, contemporary poetry, different thoughts based on the themes of these days. Now, some of you have heard me say, and it has special meaning in this particular context of leading services, it's okay with me if you fall asleep during my sermon, because I believe there's a terrible sleep debt in this country, and if you sleep because you hear my words or Sam's voice, that's great. And in this case, we're not going to even know. So please be with us in whatever way you find comfort. Be with us with authenticity and integrity and humility. And now I'm delighted to invite CBST's president, Sabrina Farber, and her wife, Ellen Shapiro, to light our Yom Tov candles. In so many ways, we are living in a moment of code red. The climate is in code red. Democracies around the world code red. Women's rights, reproductive justice, immigrants, the COVID virus, racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, transphobia, racism, every moment, especially against trans women of color. Flash floods in New York City. In Sephardic synagogues all over the world, they start tonight's service with this following beautiful piyut, a religious poem that prays, may the curses of the old year be done, and may the blessings of the new year begin. Achot Ketana. Please rise in body or spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 5.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. On page 5, please read with me. Beloved are you, eternal God, by whose design the evening falls, by whose command dimensions open up and eons pass away and stars spin in their orbits. You set the rhythms of day and of night. The alternation of light and darkness sings your creating word. In rising sun and in spreading dusk, creator of all, you are made manifest. Eternal, everlasting God, may we always be aware of your dominion. Beloved are you, Adonai, for this hour of nightfall.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני ברוך שמו המעריב ערבים ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We pray the last two paragraphs following the Shema on page 7 individually, and then we join together again on page 8.
אלוהיכם אמת, ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל, וכנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך שמו גאל ישראל.
One of the powers of prayer is to remind us aspirationally of the world we want to be a part of creating. There is power in words, there's power in prayer, there's power in thought, there's power in fostering an imagination so that we can help pave the way for a world in which the current realities of hatred and violence and polarization and evil don't exist. Of course, we know these are deep parts of the human condition, and yet we still pray. We still pray because we understand that without those aspirations, without the ability to imagine something different, we are doomed to stay in places of great violence and hatred. These words of Hashkivenu beg from God to be surrounded by a sukkah of peace so that we can be agents of that peace. We understand that God is with the brokenhearted, and we pray to help repair that pain in the world. One of the places in the world in which we feel so close and in which there is so much pain is with Palestine and Israel, and with Israeli Jews and with Palestinian Jews, both inside and outside of Israel. And while there are many places of tremendous conflict and pain in the world, tonight, as we begin this new year of 5782, I'm praying right now for this peace to be real, to be deep, to be something that I continue to believe in the possibility of. I share with you tonight words of a colleague of mine, a friend of mine who sits on a board with me, the New Israel Fund. She is a Palestinian Israeli citizen, and she wrote these words yesterday on the occasion of 5782, Rosh Hashanah, to all of us who are Jewish colleagues of hers. My wish for all of us on this Jewish year is that in 25 years, almost on Israel's centennial, these struggles for equality and justice and peace will be redundant. In the scenario I wish to imagine, the occupation will end, including the ongoing siege on my family members who were expelled from Ashkelon in 1948 and now live in Gaza. This will bring an end to the ongoing hostilities between my country, Israel, and my people, after decades of destructive consequences for all sides to this bloody conflict. In that situation, my hope is that the Palestinian identity of the Arab citizens of Israel will no longer pose a threat to Israeli Jews and will instead become an embedded part of the Israeli mosaic. I want to wish all Arab children born on Israel's centennial to feel equal. Unfortunately, my own daughters currently don't feel that way, but maybe my grandchildren will live to see that day. I also want to wish those future children the ability to dream and to make those dreams come true. Today, I'm sorry to say, many young Arabs have no dreams or ambitions, and that under certain circumstances leads them to a life of inaction, listlessness, and even to join the circles of violence and crime. May we see the situation change entirely in this regard. On Israel's centennial, my vision sees that identities in Israel will no longer clash one with the other, instead completing and enriching each other. In that future time, I hope, Israel will have the institutions and structures strong enough to ensure protection of human rights. Legislation, legal systems, an enforcement system, media, civil society, and even, more importantly, citizens who believe these important institutions should be safeguarded. I believe without the work of organizations like ours and others, and without each of you, this vision will remain nothing but an unrealistic script. But I also know that together, we will make Israel a better and more worthy place to live in. Shana Tova to my Jewish friends. We pray for God's strength and help in making this so. Hashkivenu, page 9.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom V'ha'amidenu Malkeinu L'chaim Uferos aleinu Sukat Shalomecha V'takneinu Beitza tova milfanecha V'hoshienu L'ma'an shemecha הגן בעדנו והסר מעלינו אויב דבר וחרב ורעב ויגון והסר שטן מלפנינו כנפיך תסתירנו כי אל שומרנו מצילנו אתה ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו כי אל שומרנו מצילנו שלום מעתה ועד עולם ועד עולם ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני וברוך שמו הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל כל העמים ועל ירושלים
It is in this moment of each evening service where we read a biblical passage that expresses the core of the day in which we find ourselves. On Friday nights, we recite Vishamru. And on this Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah, we recite these words from Psalms, Tiku b'chodesh shofar. We must sound the shofar on this day, b'kesa liyom chagenu, on the new moon when it is hidden. Ki chok liYisrael hu mishpat lelohei Yaakov. So these words from the Psalms we recite in the moment that we do Vishamru on Friday nights. We do this on Rosh Hashanah, and this is known. Rosh Hashanah has many names. One is Yom Truah, the day of sounding the shofar, of the sound of the shofar. More about the shofar tomorrow and the day after, big shofar days. But if you will please, if you are able to rise in body or spirit for the Tiku b'chodesh shofar, which is the announcement of Rosh Hashanah.
תקעו בחודש שופר בכסל ליום חגנו כי חוק לישראל הוא משפט לאלוהי יעקב.
The Chatzi Kaddish is on page 10, and immediately afterward we go into the silent amidah, standing prayer for Rosh Hashanah. The words are different than on Shabbat, and they are found starting on page 11 to page 17. Take this time with the Machzor to read through the words themselves and the internal parts of the page, or on the outside are wonderful and beautiful commentaries, poems, and explorations from Chazal of the different meanings of the brachot. Or take this time to just think your own thoughts, to have some time of really reflection. Where were you last Rosh Hashanah? What did you go through from last Rosh Hashanah to this year? Where were you geographically? Where were you in terms of relationships? Where were you in terms of work or school? Or where were you in terms of COVID or family? Think about last year to this year. Go through your calendar and arrive as we are in this Rosh Hashanah. And when you're done with your own prayers, be seated.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה אמן בעלמא דברכי רעותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל ואימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה וחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואימרו
On page 12 of the program, the classic Nomi Shemer song. On the grass there is dew and rain and a good year. Light and light blue of the next day stands in the doorway. Good news comes on a sheet of paper that arrives on the wind's wings straight into our hearts. Perhaps, if the year will be good, we will forget the ways of quarrel and disappointment. And to the tune of the coming song, we will dance together. Maybe we will send a card or a greeting, or we will sing hallelujah, because what will happen in the year ahead depends on us. I did not forget how I walked in deceptive ways, looking for grace and goodness in the beginning of the autumn. I am excited that the young and the old together can build a house. On the grass there is dew and rain and a good year.
טל וגשם ושנה טובה ובדלת אור ותכלת של היום הבא מן הלוח דף שלוח חדשות טובות מגיעות על כנף הרוח אל הלבבות אולי אם השנה תהיה טובה נשכח דרכי מדון באכזבה ויחד לצלילי השיר הבא נרקוד כולנו אולי נשלח ברכה אולי גלויה אולי בכלל נשיר הללויה נדמה שהשנה הזאת תלויה באמצע בנו לא שכחתי איך הלכתי בדרכי אכזר מחפשת חן וחסד בתחילת הסתיו מתרגשת ופוגשת אנשים בטף ובונה איתם ביחד בית משותף אולי אם השנה תהיה טובה נשכח דרכי מדון באכזבה ביחד לצלילי השיר הבא נרקוד כולנו אולי נשלח ברכה אולי גלויה אולי בכלל נשיר הללויה נדמה שהשנה הזאת תלויה באמצע בנו על הדשא טל וגשם ושנה טובה על הדשא טל וגשם ושנה טובה עושה שלום שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עושה שלום שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו
May we and the entire house of Israel be called to mind, and may we be inscribed for life and for blessing and for sustenance and peace in the book of life. Please, God, we hold in our prayers tonight all those who are ill, those who are suffering from illnesses of the body or illnesses of the mind or illnesses of the soul, and we pray that they will be healed on this earth. And if their bodies are not to be cured, we pray that their souls are at peace. Please write in the chat or the comments area those for whom you're praying for healing tonight. We hold those who are suffering from the many cancers, AIDS, COVID diseases, the many kinds of diseases that exist in our world. We pray for those who are struggling with mental illness, with spiritual crises of the soul. Please, God, be with each of them and their families and their loved ones and hold them close to you. Please, inscribe us in the book of life. One of the miracles for which we are so grateful at CBST could not have been imagined by the founders of this community in 1973, and that is the existence of children at CBST, the existence of a robust and thriving Hebrew school that we call Limud B'Shabbat, and in fact that we have Shabbat services, Shabbat programming, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Tov services and classes for children of this congregation. It was inconceivable when this congregation started. How much more so we can imagine what will exist in 50 years from now. And I want to pull your attention in the program, which is, you have the PDF access to. On page 10, you can see that we list all the children's programming that will be happening tomorrow and Wednesday and on Yom Kippur. You must register in advance, and we welcome all families with children to participate in this and then in the ongoing year. And we're very grateful to Jennifer Kleinbaum, our principal, and to Rabbi Yael Rapport, who runs this program that we have for children at CBST. And during this pandemic, they have worked very hard, along with the many teachers of our program, to keep our kids engaged in a participatory way in our community in these very difficult times. But one of the beautiful things that emerged was a children's version of a prayer for our country in which they did an exercise writing their own prayers for our country. And here it is.
Source of all life. Every life on earth helps our leaders get better. Strengthen our souls, but keep them from breaking apart. To be bold in our action and do what you think is right.
May we all be kind. May we all have peace. May we sing and dance together so that we can all be happy. May we always be able to be silly and make each other laugh.
May we keep environment clean and protect our ocean. May we all share what we have so that everyone has what they need.
Help us to find ways to create more nature places so that we can help the animals. Help us to work for a fair and just government so that we can all get through anything together. May we get rid of fighting so that people can come to agreements. May we prevent war to have peace.
And let us say, Amen. May we deserve the world that these children will grow into, and may we create a world in which they can grow up to be safe and healthy and free. Kaddish Shalem, page 19.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה אמן בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואימרו אמן יהי שמירה רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואימרו אמן תתקבל צלות ההון ובאו תהון לכל בית ישראל ודם אבוהון דיבי שמיה דיבי שמיה דיבי שמיה ואימרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים וחיים עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואימרו
Woo! Sam Rosen, fabulous. Thank you, Sam. So moving to daven with you and with Joyce Rosenzweig and Barbara Freeedman and Adria Benjamin. Wow, I hope you feel some of that energy and it has moved you as much as it moves me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So beautiful. So now is the moment for some words from me on this, the first night of Rosh Hashanah. And so now's the time to get comfortable, put your feet up, put your pajamas on, get yourself a drink. A sweet new year to everyone. I just want to say a word about CBST's staff and offer my personal deep thanks to everyone on CBST's staff. This has been the most difficult Yamim Noraim, Days of Awe, high holiday season I have ever experienced in 30 years of being senior rabbi at CBST. And CBST's staff has been put under a vise of pressure to try and work through the many, many, many difficult issues to pull us together for tonight, for all of Yontiv, and for the rest of these 10 days. So be kind when you send a text asking what happened to that link. Think carefully of the tone you use when you call a CBST member to, how shall we say, point out something that hasn't gone right. As Alan Liu said in his famous book about spirituality, act as if the tape is always running. In these days of awe especially, but all year long, think about how you handle and treat somebody who's at the other end of that email or phone call pointing out all the ways that CBST has not lived up to our aspirations, have not missed the mark. And by the way, this gives me the opportunity to let all of you know that we have a very special tradition at CBST, that we have so many new members, maybe you don't know, that if you find a mistake in any one of our printed documents or you see something we've done terribly wrong, we are delighted to be told about it, especially Yolanda Podosinski, our executive director, and Sabrina Farber, our president. But as of the new year, for these 10 days, if there are any such moments that happen, we're delighted that that comes along with a donation of $1,000 to the synagogue. So thank you all for pointing out all the things we do wrong, and we really look forward to those donations. We really appreciate it. Thanks so very, very, very much. So here we are at the Drashah for the first evening of Rosh Hashanah in a year. Can you even think about what's happened in this past year? Remember, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died on the first evening of Rosh Hashanah last year. What has happened from last year to this year just about the law in this country? We lived through an election cycle last year. We lived through an attack on the Capitol of the United States, unheard of, and then denied or defended by large chunks of this country. We lived through the pandemic spreading like wildfire, climate events like the heat dome and fires and droughts around the world and flash floods twice in a week in New York City, killing dozens of people. We've experienced the vast climate crises. We lived through the deaths of so many people. And we also got a vaccine this year. We lived through so many different changes in the world. There was a great conflict in Israel and Gaza that we lived through. Tremendous racism that we experienced on the streets of this city with the trials also of some of those who were responsible and the outrage in response to some of them. We lived through a season of marches demanding justice. So many things have happened from this last Rosh Hashanah to this year. What about your own lives? If you had to chart, really create a chart from last year to this year, what would the lows have been for you and what would the highs have looked like? How long were the lows and how long were the highs? Who were the people who helped you when you were in one of those pits in the lows? And where and how were you able to celebrate some of the highs? For those of you who are parents or guardians or in relationship with young children during this period of the pandemic, there are no words to describe how difficult this time has been for kids. No words to describe what it's been like for families trying to negotiate for all these 18 months or so, having children online or partially in school or partially at home. And how hard it is to become a math teacher when, let's just face it, you're terrible at arithmetic. So these have been difficult times for so many. If you've lived and are living alone, the isolation that has been felt and the sense of lack of human contact, there is no good way to go through the pandemic. One thing is true, that community is a pretty powerful antidote and a pretty powerful arc on which we ride to try and move through these terrible times. What is the point of a drash or a sermon or a Devar Torah? Some drashot teach something new based on text, maybe based on the midrash or halakha or agadah or something very, very textually based. And the point of them is to learn, to expand our minds, to understand more deeply our sacred texts. Some drashot bring comfort. Some are there to inspire or to demand and hold us accountable. Some are focused on social justice. Some are focused on personal spiritual growth. Some are political. Some are spiritual. All include God. I, for one, don't make a distinction between political and spiritual, although I do understand when people say to me, you know what, I want a drash that's strictly spiritual, or I really respond to your drashot which are political. For me, they are one and the same. They're a different lens, a different color to look at the same thing. Who are we in the world and what brings us purpose and meaning? And from what do we derive comfort and strength? There is a famous saying that I think was originally written about newspapers, but many people talk about sermons this way, that they should comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Well, I don't think anybody's particularly comfortable right now. And as I've been giving the drashot of the 7 weeks between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah, I've been really focused on comfort. I do not believe in these false binaries and distinctions that make things in little boxes. And sometimes each of us needs different things. I've been studying for these last 18 months the book of Tehillim, of Psalms, with a wonderful community of CBST. Some are members and some are not. They come from all over the world, quite literally, and I'm sure many of you are joining us at services tonight. And we have explored the power of Tehillim, which are a very deep part of my spiritual life since my teens. Because in the Psalms are found expressions that are thousands of years old to get both at the spiritual lows, the spiritual highs, that can respond and reflect the political realities. And that is a part of creating a religious language that has depth and meaning and purpose. So, Hayom Harat Olam. We throw that phrase around a lot when we talk about Rosh Hashanah because while Rosh Hashanah has deep spiritual meaning, of course, it is also linked to the very creation of the world itself. The historical event, if we can call it that is connected to Rosh Hashanah, is the creation of the world. Now we Jews, not just me as a Reform or a Reconstructionist Jew or a liberal progressive Jew, believe in science. That's true of the most Orthodox Jew in the universe. Judaism believes that science is a creation of God. And if there's knowledge that God has put on the earth for us to learn in order to save a life or improve the quality of life, then that's godly. There is no sense that there's a struggle between science and religion in Judaism. But okay, what do we mean 5782 exactly? It's true, some people might think of that as literal terms, but even some of Chazal, some of our traditional rabbis see it as a metaphor. But the world was created. That's not in debates in the sense of we don't know how and we don't know what formed the world, but the text of the Bible, which we celebrate on Rosh Hashanah, is about celebrating that process of creation. And how powerful a thing to celebrate historically when we're talking about the renewal of the year, the rebirth of a year, the opportunity to reset our lives and start again. The Jewish text that we go back to and the image we have in our mind is creation itself. Briat ha'olam, the creation of the world. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et ha'aretz. Now, there are many ways to explore those words and not be scientifically put into anxiety. I'm going to speak in the metaphorical, in the midrashic, in the mythic, because that language, I believe, has such deep truths. God created the world according to that first chapter of Genesis, of Bereshit, from chaos. And as I've said in Drashot here at CBST for years, it is teaching us that creativity itself is born from chaos. And those of us who are full of fear and anxiety because chaos exists in our lives or in our world are given this unbelievable model that there was tohu vavohu, that there was chaos and formlessness. And from that came the very world itself. So that's a piece of comfort that this drash is bringing you, I hope. That just because we're in a moment of great chaos in the world in which we live, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that chaos, doesn't mean that the chaos will not generate great creativity and great beauty and response as beautiful as the world itself. We are taught that we are supposed to imitate the Holy One. We are supposed to be creators and to be creative. But the beginning of the beginning didn't last very long, and so we come back to this sense of the total uncertainty of the time we're in. Okay, the world was formed, and then what? Over and over again, we see through stories throughout the Tanakh and through Chazal, the rabbis of our tradition, that it's not enough for the world to have been created once. We have the job or the obligation to keep on recreating ourselves and the world itself. So, the first example. Life at first, according to the Midrashim and into the text itself of the Chumash, was perfect, right? We even use as a word for perfection the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden. We use even in English to talk about the perfect time. And Joni Mitchell in her song Woodstock even talks about getting back to the garden. What is she talking about? She's talking about the Garden of Eden. We have, as a sense, there was a time of perfection after the creation of the world itself. But that didn't last very long at all, remember? What happened? There were two trees. I'll quickly review it. I could study this as a class for a year, just this section. It's so rich. There were two trees. Some of our traditions say it was actually one tree with two major branches, the tree of life and the tree of knowing good from evil. Eitz hada'at tov v'ra, the tree of knowledge, we call that sometimes, but it's not just knowledge, it's the knowledge of knowing good from evil. We are told in the story, and I'm not going to go through these details of the snake and Adam and Eve, that's a whole other drash. We could eat from the tree of life, we are told, but not the other. And of course, we did eat from the tree of Eitz hada'at tov v'ra, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So the Mefarshim, Chazal, talk a lot about what changed at the moment that we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Some say before we ate from that, evil was entirely external to us as human beings. External evil is sometimes a lot easier to deal with than internal evil, right? And after we ate from that tree, we discovered that we could be as evil as somebody else. Others say that this was the introduction of understanding evil in the world, that before that, Adam and Eve didn't really understand there was evil. They hadn't experienced a death. They hadn't known about violence or evil or hatred yet. It comes soon, don't worry. But they hadn't known it yet. That this is the beginning of knowing about evil in the world in general. Evil on the inside and evil on the outside. For Christianity, by the way, this is a very significant moment because it is the moment of the fall of man, and humanity inherits this sin and guilt from Adam and Eve forever. By the way, the food of the Eitz V'da'at, the tree of knowledge, is sometimes portrayed as an apple, which is an interesting feature of Rosh Hashanah. But we kind of doubt it from the biblical Hebrew, but it's a nice idea that we take this apple now and dip it into honey, but that's another story. So many in Chazal say that part of what we learned when we learned about the existence of evil is that we also learned that we are mortal and that all of us will one day die. And this is one of the themes, of course, of these 10 days. More a focus of Yom Kippur, but part of all these 10 days of awe, which is that we are mortal. And this is what we learned at that moment that we ate from this tree of good and evil. But Chazal say this gives us an opportunity to actually do something with the time that we have on this earth. Before we ate, we had clarity, it was easy. But how do we live in the world once we know something so deep that evil exists, or something so deep that life is finite, that those we love most in the world will one day die? They will leave us, or we will die first. What happens when our worlds are shaken to that kind of core? On 9/11, which we observe soon, the 20th anniversary, I think it's 9/11, right? So many people said they would never feel secure again. I always found that confusing to me. As a Jew, who feels secure? I couldn't understand that this was a new moment, but it was like for many people in America, it was the eating from the tree of knowledge that guess what? Life is insecure, there's full of uncertainties, and you might die from an airplane with evil intent crashing into your office one day. I don't know, as a Jew, that didn't strike me as a new idea. I was standing on Washington Street on the morning of Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, having just parked my car on Perry Street and about to walk to our Bethune Street office when I heard the first plane hit the World Trade Center. I turned around and I saw it explode into a ball of fire. I stood there with a bunch of people on Washington Street, and there's a clear shot, if you stand on Washington and Perry, down to where the World Trade Towers used to stand. I mean, an absolute clear shot. It was a beautiful day. The sky there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And all these people I was standing with saying, wow, a terrible accident. This plane just crashed in the World Trade Center. Somebody must have gotten lost. And I turned to them and I said, that's terrorism. And I realized, oh my God, I'm Jewish. And I kind of said to myself, don't assume everything that happens in the world is terrorism. And of course, because I had already eaten from that tree of knowledge about life being uncertain and insecure as a fundamental truth, we Jews know that life can change on a dime, that anti-Semitism can turn a people from being integrated and comfortable and in leadership positions in a country into being led to slaughter soon after. We know that. So that day, look at what that day, 9/11/2001, unleashed in America. It could have been a moment of tohu vavohu in which God modeled creating beauty and a world full of nature and art. We could have come out of that moment of crisis, that moment of tohu vavohu, and created something beautiful. Instead, we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, the war which just ended 20 years later. For a few days after 9/11, the good angels were released all over New York City, for sure, where I was. I don't know what it was like in other places. It was fantastic. People were feeding each other. Restaurants had tables set up outside. So many people were streaming to the site to help that they couldn't even handle the numbers of first responders who were digging and helping. It was so deeply moving. We celebrated Rosh Hashanah that year a few days after 9/11, and we could smell in the air the burning bodies and the burning metal from the tower. We in the Javits Center, then we had 6,000 people gathered together, and we prayed that night. And that prayer is now in our Friday night Siddur, and we said, may we, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, come together to know that our souls are stronger than the steel of those towers. And may we fight to build a world in which we are all safe. How many deaths, how much destruction has taken place? How many civil rights eroded in this country? How do we go on? Last year, on the first night of Rosh Hashanah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and I had to announce it from here, and many of you heard it for the first time live here. She wrote at that time, and I quoted it then in my second day Drashah, something that I urge us to remember. She said, dissents speak to a future. It's not simply to say my colleagues are wrong and I would do it this way. But the greatest dissents do become court opinions, and gradually over time, their views become the dominant view. This woman had such a view of history, such a sense that no matter what, even when the tides are tremendously against us, we keep on saying what we know to be right and true and build that foundation for a future which is ready to act in that way. Last week's Supreme Court ruling, so horrific as it was, passed as a shadow act late at night, elicited this dissent from Justice Sonia Sotomayor. This act is clearly unconstitutional under existing precedents. The respondents do not even try to argue otherwise, nor could they. No federal appellate court has ever upheld such a comprehensive prohibition on abortion before viability under current law. The Texas legislature was aware of this binding precedent, and to circumvent it, they took the extraordinary step of enlisting private citizens to do what the state could not. The act authorizes any private citizen to file a lawsuit against any person who provides an abortion in a violation of the act, aids or abets such an abortion, including paying for it, regardless of whether they knew the abortion is prohibited under the act or even intends to engage in such conduct. Courts are required to enjoin the defendant from engaging in these actions to the future and to award the private citizen plaintiff $10,000 in statutory damages for each forbidden abortion performed or aided by the defendant. In effect, Justice Sotomayor says in her dissent, the Texas legislature has deputized the state citizens as bounty hunters, offering them cash prizes for civilly prosecuting their neighbors' medical procedures. Taken together, the act is a breathtaking act of defiance of the Constitution, of this court's precedents, and of the rights of women seeking abortions throughout Texas. Today, the court finally tells the nation that it has declined to act because the state of Texas gambit has won. The court, these are ellipses between these paragraphs. You could read the whole dissent. The court should not be so content to ignore its constitutional obligations to protect not only the rights of women, but also the sanctity of its precedents and of the rule of law. I dissent. We are in very difficult times. Politically, spiritually, we are in times of great uncertainty. The Mekubalim, the mystics in Jewish tradition, see the chet of the Eitz Hadat, see the thing that was done wrong in that tree of knowledge by eating the fruit of it, was doing something, I think, kind of extraordinary. And I'm offering you this teaching today as a way of thinking about how we respond to the onslaught of so many things of great fear and disappointment. I have said in multiple times, in multiple ways, that repairing the world is comprised of two parts. One is fighting the ugliness and injustice, and the other is creating beauty in this world. The Mekubalim said that after the Chet Eitz Hadat, all the good and the evil in the world got completely mixed up. Before, inside of Gan Eden, it was very separated. You could see what was good and you could see what was bad, and inside people were good, but afterwards, everything was mixed up. There's a concept in the Mekubalim called the Be'irurim, which means to separate out or to separate out. And this concept in Kabbalistic literature means to fix the chet of Eitz Hadat by doing what? If holiness and evil are so mixed up in the world that in some ways we cannot avoid the evil, because the evil affects us in all different ways. The Mekubalim said this, that the only way to respond is to increase the holiness. Imagine, if you will, there's a kind of a finite space for good and evil. And if we, every day, in every one of our actions, does that which expands the holiness, according to the Mekubalim, it kind of deprives the oxygen to the evil. I love this image. It matters not what the good is, so to speak. It matters that you're just increasing the amount of holiness in the world. And as the bubble or balloon of the holiness expands, it decreases the space for evil. It doesn't mean that it happens overnight or it even happens in our lifetimes. But it means for the Mekubalim, increasing that holiness, becoming a more educated Jew, a more engaged Jew, a human being who's more engaged in repairing the broken world in which we exist, creating great music and art and things of great beauty. Every single one of those acts, from holding the door open for somebody, to going to a demonstration, to playing the piano or singing or creating art, or going to a museum and appreciating art, or loving a purple flower, or riding a bicycle through Central Park and loving the art. Every single thing of goodness that we do in the world responds to the chet of the Eitz Hadat, of the tree of knowledge, by expanding the goodness. It's on each of us to do that, in whichever way we are organized, in whichever ways we are human. No one is exempt. Sing, be, live, see this dark and stormy hour. The wind it stirs, the scorched earth cries out in vain. O war and power, you blind and blur the torn heart. But music and singing have been my refuge. And music and singing shall be my light, a light of song shining strong. Alleluia, through the darkness, pain, and strife. I'll sing, be, live, see peace. The psalmist says and tells us, joy comes in the morning. I might weep all night long, but joy will come in the morning. Please, God, be with us. Help us to turn our mourning into dancing so that we can express gratitude, odeka, so we can express gratitude to you. A sweet and a healthy and a happy new year to everyone.
You turn my mourning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sing to you, and it not be stilled.
You turn my mourning into dancing, so that my soul might sing to you, so that my soul sing to you, and it not be still. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh, take
Now I sing praises to the Holy One, who lifts me up when I have fallen. And I cry to you to heal me, and you have answered all my prayers.
Now I sing praises to the Holy One, who lifts me up when I have fallen. And I cry to you to heal me, and you have answered all my prayers. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh, take
I ask that you be gracious and hear me, Adonai. I have called to you to help me, and you've supported me with joy.
I ask that you be gracious and hear me, Adonai. I have called to you to help me, and you've supported me with joy.
Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh, take God, oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh God, my God, forever I will thank you. Oh, take God, oh, take
That was our CBST community chorus in a choral setting that we used last year, this past June of 2021, right? 2021 for our fantastic CBST concert. And so beautiful to see all of you and to hear your gorgeous harmonies with some of the soloists from that concert as well. We turn to Elenu, page 25. Please stand if you are able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שברא אותנו בצלמו, ונפח בנו את נשמת חיינו, שהעמיק אותנו בלימוד תורתו, וקידשנו במצוותיה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר ארץ, ומושבי קרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We pause now, as we do in every single Jewish service, to remember those we've loved and lost, either in the recent days or in years past at this season. If you are in mourning or observing a yortzeit, or if it's your custom to stand for the mourner's Kaddish, please do so. And please list the names for whom you're saying mourner's Kaddish in the chat or comments, so that we can hold them all in our hearts as we recite the mourner's Kaddish on page 26. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kariv v'yimru, Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach li'olam olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudsha brichu, Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiram bi'alma v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru.
Amen.
May the one who makes peace in the heavens bring comfort to all who mourn here on earth, and let us say, Amen. Some years ago, I don't remember the exact year, but I do remember the place and the people. It was at the Metropolitan Pavilion, and I invited Ruth Berman and Connie Kurtz to offer a membership talk. I started that year, and maybe Ruthie, you're watching tonight, you could tell us what year that was. I had this idea back then that at each Rosh Hashanah we could ask a different member of the community to offer some words to describe who they are and what CBST means to them, as a way to encourage people to become members if they're not, and if they are members, Oh, to increase their donations to the synagogue. Because you know what? Ein kemach, ein Torah. We need all of you. In the many, many years since then, each year we've invited somebody else who represents some other part of our community to stand in front of the community on Rosh Hashanah and tell us about them. We've had so many people from all different parts of our community, from all different sexual orientations and gender identities, from young and from old and all different types. We've had families with children, all different types. The list is fantastic, actually. Be a great montage, all of these videos of all of these membership talks. But tonight we've invited somebody who joined CBST during COVID. They lived in Austin, Texas, and found us from there. And now they've just moved to New York City. But because we felt this is such an appropriate moment to acknowledge that some people joined CBST and have not yet even been in the building, because they've joined during this time, we thought this is the kind of a person we'd love to celebrate. Ari Montz, who's going to speak to us in a minute, is an independent scholar, artist, and queer liturgist. Ari grew up in Connecticut, got a BA in music, theater, and women's and gender study from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro, and has just finished coursework toward a PhD at the University of Texas at Austin. Their research looks at the role of participatory performance rituals and their roles in community formation. So I want to stop right there so all of you can get to know Ari as I have. They've been in our Psalms class, and it's been really fabulous having Ari a part of the CBST community this year. Ari, please speak to us.
Shana Tova, Happy New Year, CBST. I am so honored to be speaking to you all today. I did not grow up Jewish. Outside of the handful of B'nai Mitzvah I attended in middle school, I hadn't seriously thought about living a Jewish life until college, when I took an Introduction to Judaism course to fulfill a general education requirement. That was the first time something shifted. It was a small shift, but in hindsight, it changed the trajectory of my life. But the real moment I knew my soul was Jewish and that becoming a Jew was beshert, destined, was on the first night of Pesach in 2013. I was on a date turned Seder. We did all the things you do on an 8-hour lesbian first date. We got chicken and waffles, we walked the city, we went to a museum, we even went grocery shopping. It was as we browsed the shelves of the local Food Lion, looking for chips, that she quipped, "Oh, tonight's the first night of Passover. Want to have a Seder with me?" I had a basic idea of what a Seder was, but more importantly, I wasn't ready for the date to end. So, of course, I said yes. We got paper plates, a lamb chop, mustard with horseradish, eggs, a head of lettuce, applesauce, and wine. When you're 22, you make do. That night, she led me through the Seder, telling me that because this was my first one, I got to be the youngest child and ask the 4 questions. We took selfies after every glass of wine, a tradition I keep to this day, chased down her cat who stole the bone from our lamb chop, and we talked about dreams of liberation until 3 o'clock in the morning. It was perfect, and I've been chasing that feeling since that date. There is a rich tradition of vibrant Judaism in the South, where I went to college and beyond in Greensboro, North Carolina, and in Austin, Texas, where I lived up until 2 weeks ago. And still, institutional Jewish life never felt accessible to me. I was too Black, I was too political, I didn't know the songs the community sang, I didn't know Hebrew, I wasn't Jewish enough. There felt like too many obstacles. How, with all the catching up I had to do, could institutional Jewish life compare to that perfect Seder I had on that date? Could anything ever feel as good as that moment for me? My fears made me relegate Judaism to a purely home-based and academic practice. I read works of Jewish thinkers and I lit Shabbat candles. But it was personal, not communal. Years passed with me holding on to Judaism in these small ways, and it was fine, but I craved more. The craving got to a point where I reached out to a local synagogue about joining, But on my graduate student's budget, the dues became a hindrance. And once again, I settled with what I was used to. And then on March 15th, 2020, everything changed. I remember settling in for what I assumed would be a month or two of quarantining, grateful for the home-based rituals I'd cultivated for myself. But there was also a deep loneliness. There wasn't any more studying at the library until 1 a.m. with friends. Coffee dates all but disappeared. All rituals of gathering and being together that had made me feel whole were gone, seemingly overnight. And while those feelings were real and valid, there was also another truth that I hadn't yet realized, related to the ways in which the pandemic required us to change our definition of liveness. The smells, sounds, and sights we'd so long associated with gathering in real time had to change. Being in person wasn't the only way to cultivate community. I thought hard about what I wanted in an online Jewish community. Spirituality taken seriously, intergenerational engagement, learning that was separated from competition and grades. I bounced around, watching this Shul's lecture series, another's pre-recorded Kabbalah Shabbat service, downloading a Jewish Center's holiday guide. They were balms to my weary and nervous spirit, and I wanted more. Then, as is my wont, I found a nice Jewish gay, and we decided that we were deeply in love, and that deeply in love adult Jews joined shuls together. And because everything was virtual, any shul could be our local shul, we did our research, and the one place that checked all of my boxes was CBST. I wept after seeing Rabbi Kleinbaum and Rabbi Rapport lead together at my first service. The first time I attended Shacharit was the first time I attended a Jewish service where queerness was normative and I wasn't the only Black person in the room. After years of believing that Jewish institutional life wasn't for me and couldn't ever be for me, CBST changed all of that over the course of a weekend. When I decided to join, CBST's policy of being open to all meant that I felt happy to give what I could as dues, and knew that whatever I gave would be welcome. It meant that my post-grad school chronically underemployed dollars were welcome just as much as they are now that I'm fully employed. The CBST Connects program matched me with someone who has become one of my closest friends. We send each other weekly BHIS, Baruch Hashem, and Shabbat texts, and are always fangirling together over our cats and our favorite Jewish astrologers. I have never felt like less than a full participant in the life of CBST since I became a member. Even as I still make my way through Beirut, the process of becoming Jewish, the clergy, staff, and members of CBST have welcomed me with open arms. So often, as a minoritized person, institutions love to tell me, you matter, you deserve to be here. But at CBST, that hasn't ever needed to be said. From the moment I walked into the virtual doors, those truths were lived out. I have always known I belong in the spaces I want to be in. The question has always been whether or not other folks in those spaces know I belong. With pride and a full heart, I can say that that's true here. CBST, a congregation that began in order for gay Jews to have a space to bravely engage in their traditions, has continued to do so. Who would have thought that a Black trans Jew living in Austin, Texas would have found their spiritual home in Manhattan? I surely did not, but after years of yearning for a community, I wake up with gratitude each day to have found it. I know that many of you are watching this today because you too are craving community. Maybe this is your first time engaging with CBST. Maybe you've come to services but haven't made the decision whether or not to join. Here's my 2 cents. We invest in communities we believe in. And I believe in CBST. I believe in its mission. I believe in the community. I believe in the ways that wherever you are on your journey with Judaism, CBST makes room for you at the table. And that's key. Here at CBST, room is purposefully made for all who want to participate. So whether you're tuning in right now from down the street or from a time zone 8 hours ahead, believe in CBST, invest in CBST, and be a part of this loving community. May more people know true belonging and love through this community this year, and God willing, for many years to come. L'shana tova umetuka.
Thank you so much, Ari. That was fantastic. We are thrilled to have you as a member of the community. And now I'd like to invite Sabrina Farber, CBST's president, for some announcements.
For once, you're seeing me here, and I'm not saying Shabbat Shalom. I'm saying Shana Tova. Ari, that was so incredibly moving. I was lucky enough to read a copy of it before you actually delivered it tonight, and I can tell you I was a combination of crying and rolling on the floor laughing. The bit about the lesbian date, everybody out there who's a gay woman can totally relate to that. So thank you, but thank you for your deeply moving words, and how wonderful that you became a member during COVID, when so many of us felt our lives contract, your life grew. And for those of you out there, welcome to CBST. Welcome from the bottom of my heart, and also from the board of directors and the entire CBST community. We are delighted that you have chosen to celebrate Rosh Hashanah with us. What an absolutely gorgeous service, and I'm telling you, this truly takes a village. I've said this before on Shabbat, but honestly, this one, you're gonna have to sit tight because I have a lot of people to thank. I have my own list, and I have a list from my friend Yolanda, so it's going to take a couple of minutes. So get comfortable. Thank you to Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum for expertly guiding us and for giving a beautiful Drashah. Thank you to Baal Tefillah Cantorial Intern Sam Rosen for your magnificent voice and your spirit. Thank you to our incomparable music director, Joyce Rosenzweig. Thank you to Adria Benjamin for sharing your viola with us, and to Barbara Freeedman for keeping us on time with your fabulous percussion. Deep thanks to both of the Cooperberg Ritmaster Rabbinical interns, Yael Werber and Dave Yadid, for their upcoming Kiddush and Motzi. And of course, eternal thanks to the CBST Community Chorus for the amazing vocals, some of which were new, some of which were from past occasions, but always, always absolutely gorgeous. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank CBST Executive Director Yolanda Potosinski and the entire CBST staff for getting us to this day. Specifically, Jorge Loyola is here tonight, as is Yolanda. And so many more thank yous. I have to thank Andy Austin for the website tech and for the streaming. He and I were on many a Zoom call in anticipation of this evening, so thank you, Andy. Eldar Ben Yosef and Mike Quinn, thank you for security. Thank you to our welcomers, Sharon Golub, Larry Finkelstein, Kenneth Carpel, Marianne King, Sally Kopstein, and all the rest of the hospitality team greeters. Thank you to Stephen Hertz and Guy Rosenstrich for your fabulous job on the flowers. And yes, for those of you who've been asking in the chat, the flowers were covered in silver paper by none other than Rebbitzin Randy Weingarten. So thank you, Rebbitzin Weingarten. Thank you to Rabbi Rapport and Rabbi Kim Geringer for acting as online rabbis. Thank you to Jason Schuler and all the amazing guys from Awakened Films who are here, making us look and sound so great. Thank you to Josh Walker and Sarah Berman for all the fabulous printed materials we have. And thank you to Amy Nemiroff and Dawn Sontag, to captioners Natanya Epstein and Melina Lawrence. And thank you to all of you for being with us and sharing our Shana Tova tonight. Shana Tova.
And thank you, Sabrina Farber, for all that you do for this congregation. Let me tell you, Sabrina works countless hours, but it's not just the number of hours, it's the heart and soul and intelligence that you bring to this. We're all very, very, very lucky to have you as president at CBST during these very difficult times. So thank you very much. And I want to just add thank you to everybody who's been involved in the children's programming that's going to be happening tomorrow and Wednesday. Jennifer Kleinbaum, and all of the teachers and music folks for the children's programming. More about that tomorrow. And now we move into this, for the first time, for the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Psalm 27. Adonai is my light and my help, whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life, whom should I dread? Should an army camp be arrayed against me, my heart would show no fear. One thing I ask of Adonai, this I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, and behold God's beauty, and visit in God's sanctuary always. Please join us for Rosh Hashanah Kiddush. If you have a Kiddush cup with wine or grape juice at home, now's the time to grab it. And Sam and Joyce will lead us in Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu im kolam veromemanu im kol lashon vekidshanu b'mitzvotav vatitein lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava et yom hazikaron hazeh yom teruah mikra kodesh zecher zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu vacharta veotanu kidashta kivanu vacharta veotanu kidashta im kol hamim udvarcha emet vekayam la'ad Baruch אתה אדוני. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. 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 ויום הזיכרון. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
And now I'd like to welcome Cooperberg Ripmaster Rabbinical Interns returning for a second year, Dave Yadid, and for her first year with us, Yael Werber, to do the motzi and the blessing over the sweetness and to eat the apples and the honey.
פותח את ידיך ומשפיע לכל חי רצון, ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ. אמן.
יהיו רצון מלפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, שתחדש עלינו שנה טובה ומתוקה.
אמן.
תחתנו
Shana Toiva Tikasevu, a good year to all, a good year, a sweet and a healthy year. Join us tomorrow for services, 8:30 our welcome and 9 o'clock services. Shana Tova.